यार इसको कहना पानी दे दे, फिर दरवाजा बंद कर देना। Hi guys, I hope you people are doing well. Can you just confirm to me that I'm audible? Yeah, can you just confirm to me that I'm audible? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks for confirming that I'm audible to all of you. Thank you for that. Okay, guys, I hope you people are doing well. Thank you very much for being here. So we are going to start off with the strategic business reporting. My name is Luqman Rafiq, and I've been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now. I've been teaching different papers of ACCA, and I've also been teaching different other qualifications also. So the agenda of the session of today is we are going to be discussing that what exactly are the syllabus content of this paper, strategic business reporting, and what exactly would we be doing in order to cover up this strategic business reporting for our relevant attempt. Now let's just start off. The first thing that I would want to discuss is the relational diagram of the strategic business reporting. I have in front of me the syllabus that has been published by the ACCA, and through this syllabus you can have an idea that what is the relational diagram, what are the connections of this SBR syllabus with the other examinations. So as you could see that the SBR paper, there is a prerequisite which is the financial reporting paper forms as the basis of it, and in addition to the financial reporting we have got this financial accounting paper also. So whatever basic accounting that you study at the financial accounting level plus whatever voice is doubling. Okay. Okay. Let me just see. Okay, just a second, please. Is this the issue with everyone that the voice is there is an echo of voice? Okay, yes, there's an echo of voice. Okay, just a minute. Okay, is it better now? Is it better now? It is, right? Okay, lovely. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, let me start off again. So basically, this is specific financial accounting paper, which was earlier termed as F3 examination. And in addition to this, the FR examination, which was termed as F7 examination. Whatever that you study at the FR and the FA level, all of that is assumed knowledge at the SBR level. Back to echoes. Okay. I don't know what's going wrong. Just a second, please. Okay, I got it. I think no more echoes now. Yeah, no more echoes now. Okay, lovely. So basically, I'm sorry about it. Again, let's just start off because with respect to these, you can have the technical issues, and the technical issues actually do cause a bit of disturbance. So we were talking about the financial reporting examination and the financial accounting examination, which form the basis for the strategic business reporting. So it's an assumed knowledge that you would actually be aware of whatever that you have studied at this FR and the FA level. So that's an assumed knowledge at this SBR. Now, as a student, you might actually end up saying that we've already forgotten whatever that we have studied at the FR level. So you don't have to worry about it, because when I would be delivering this SBR course, I would be just ensuring that you get access to all the accounting standards that are actually covered up at the SBR, at the FR level, so you don't have any issues with respect to it. Anyways, let's just start off and let's move forward a bit, and let's talk about the approach to the examination of the syllabus. So when I talk about approach to examination of the syllabus, the SBR examination is made up of two sections, which is section A. One of the questions of section A is worth 30 marks, and there is this question number 2 which is worth 20 marks. So there is this one question which is 30 marks, there is this another question which is 20 marks. And usually what happens is that this 30 mark question, it includes consolidation, and then it includes some other accounting standards. That's what it is covered in question number 1. Question number 2 usually is some accounting issue, and in addition to the accounting issue, there are ethics that are examined. So in addition to the accounting issue, there are ethics that are also examined. That's what is there with respect to question number 2. Then you have got section B. The section B, you've got question number 3 and question number 4. Each of these questions are 25 marks each. And with respect to question number 3, usually what happens is that it is made up of multiple IFRS, multiple accounting standards. That's what question number 3 is all about. So it's made up of multiple IFRS, multiple accounting standards. That's what question 3 is all about. And the question number 4, it's like accounting issue plus an additional area which is called the current issue. An additional area which is actually termed as current issue. So this is what question number 4 is made up of. I will discuss about it, that what is this current issue all about, what are the things that are examined when it comes to the current issue. I will be discussing about all of them. Now let's just move a bit forward and let's talk about the syllabus components, that what are the syllabus components. So you could see that there are multiple syllabus components. I would be discussing each one of them with you, and I would also be telling you that which one of them is significant, which one of them is relatively less significant. So let me just guide you. First of all, you could see this is this employability and technology skills. Now when I talk about the employability and technology skills, the major concept of employability and technology skills is that as a student, ACCA now what it wants is that it wants that when the student goes into the job, into the workplace, so they are ready for the workplace environment. And generally with respect to the workplace environment, the students, they lack the IT skills. And one of the core IT skills that the students should actually know is to how to handle the word processing documents and how to handle the spreadsheet, because in majority of the organizations, you just cannot operate without the spreadsheet. Even if there is a high level of ERPs implemented, you just cannot operate without the spreadsheet. So spreadsheet is necessary. A spreadsheet is an important element. So basically what happens is that since all of these examinations are now computer-based examination, so as a student, if you actually learn the art of attempting the examination on the computer, of attempting the paper on the computer, that means you have been able to achieve the section G, which is the employability and technology skills, because this is what the examiner actually means by when he is mentioning this as section G of the syllabus. Then we talk about the other areas of the syllabus. So there is this number 1, which is fundamental, ethical and professional principles. You know this thing that the code of ethics. So even with respect to the ACCA, the code of ethics is an essential part. We already discussed the code of ethics when we discussed the audit and assurance syllabus. And nowadays, every profession is now emphasizing on the ethics. What exactly do you mean by ethics? Ethics is the difference between right and wrong. When you understand, when you know what is right and what is wrong, when you could distinguish between right and wrong, when you could make a judgment that what to do in the given scenario, what to do in the given situations, that means what is happening is that you are acting ethically. What is happening is that you are acting ethically. So when I talk about the ethical and the professional principles, so the concept of ethical and the professional principles is that basically talking about the ethical and professional principles is that you, from the SBR perspective, you'll be given different scenarios, different situations, which generally would involve an accounting issue. And the accounting that would be done would not be appropriate accounting in those given scenarios. So what you would have to do as a student is that you would have to identify that what are the ethical issues, what are the ethical dilemmas that are being faced in this situation. So you would have to identify that what are the ethical issues that are actually arising, and then you would have to understand that how to deal with them, how to address them. That's what the fundamental ethical and the professional principles actually mean. That you would talk about the ethical issues, plus you would be talking about how to deal with the given scenario. So this is something that you can expect, and it's a mandatory topic in every examination. Like at times it would be 7 marks, 8 marks, 10 marks, things like that. It's a mandatory topic in almost every examination. Then there is this financial reporting framework. Now when I talk about the financial reporting framework, so there is this conceptual framework that IASB has published. What is the purpose of the conceptual framework? What is the objective of conceptual framework? The main purpose and the main objective of the conceptual framework is that it actually allows you as an entity. I repeat, the main purpose and the main objective of the conceptual framework is that it actually sets a tone, it sets a direction, it gives a general guideline as to how any IFRS should be made, as to how any IFRS should be made. So now talk about this ISB conceptual framework. The whole objective of the ISB conceptual framework is that it gives you a general guidance, it gives you a general idea as to how the accounting standards should be done. It sets the definitions, like what should be the definition of the assets, what should be the definition of liability, income, equity, expenses, etc., etc. Because you know what happens is that the accounting standards have been in existence for many years, even before the framework was introduced by IASB. But then IASB realized this thing, that a lot of accounting standards contradict with the other accounting standards. The definition of fair value in one accounting standard is different, and the definition of fair value in another accounting standard is different. So on the basis of that, IASB realized this thing, that what we need to do is that we need to make sure that we synchronize everything, that we standardize everything in a proper manner, and we prepare a general guideline which would be used for the improvement of the existing accounting standard and for the development of the new accounting standard. So as a result of this, what they did was they prepared this financial reporting framework. So ISB's conceptual framework, the financial reporting framework, what is the whole objective and the purpose of this is that the whole objective and the whole purpose of the ISB's financial reporting of the conceptual framework is that what we try to do is that we try to ensure that it sets a guideline as to what an accounting standard should include, what should be the definitions in as per the accounting standard, so that ultimately there is an overall guide and every accounting standard complies with this. So there have been updations to the conceptual framework also over a period of time. In this specific topic, we would be discussing that what the conceptual framework is and how does the conceptual framework suggest accounting under a given scenario, and how would that accounting differ from a given accounting standard. That is all something that we would be discussing. Then there is this all of these, which I'm just gonna come to all of them. But before them, let me talk about this impact of changes in accounting regulation. This area we also call it a current issue. I bet we also call it a current issue. Now, what exactly do you mean by current issue? So let me just guide you a bit about this. So the concept of current issue is that whatever the recent development in accounting standards are, whatever the recent development in accounting standards are, whatever the impact on existing accounting treatment are, etc., etc. So what you need to do is that you need to understand this thing, that you would have to actually say that okay, these are the changes that have happened to the accounting standard, or these are the upcoming changes, and how would it impact the accounting treatment, how would it impact the financial reporting. That is something that we would be discussing when we would be talking about this. So basically the whole objective or the whole concept of this is that this is the current development in the accounting standard, the current changes in the accounting standard, and how would it be impacting the entity, how would it be impacting the financial statements of the entity. That is what is going to be covered. Now let's move a bit forward, and I would say that these three are the core areas of the syllabus. These three are the core areas of the syllabus: the section C, the section D, and the section E. These three are the core areas of the syllabus. What are they? They are the core areas of the syllabus. So as a student, you should know that you should have a very good grip over these accounting standards. Thank you, Shahir Kareem. Thank you. Hope you had a good examination week. Anyways, so that's what it is. Now let's move on to this section C, section D, and section E. So section D is majorly the accounting standards. Section C is majorly the accounting standards. Section D is the group, or we call it consolidation. And section E is the interpretation of financial statements. Now let's talk about it. Let's discuss about it. The first thing that I would want to talk about is the core accounting standards that are part and parcel of this SBR syllabus. So amongst the core accounting standard, one of the accounting standard that is there is the revenue accounting standard. So IFRS 15 revenue, and this is one of those accounting standards that is more frequently examined as compared to any other accounting standard. So whether you talk about the revenue recognition for a manufacturing organization, inshallah Shahir, or whether we talk about the revenue recognition for a trading organization, or we talk about the revenue recognition for a service organization, every single organization that we are going to be talking about. So if you talk about the revenue recognition for the different organizations, so how this revenue is going to be recognized, the amount at which the revenue is going to be recognized, the timing at which the revenue is going to be recognized, etc., etc., etc. All of these things are going to be discussed. So IFRS 15, you have already discussed this IFRS 15 earlier, but over here at the SBR, you have got the complete testing of the IFRS. So even if it's a construction company, even if it's a software development company, we would be looking at how the revenues are to be accounted for. If you move a bit forward, then the next area is about the leases. So with respect to the leases, the accounting standards name is IFRS 16 leases. And when we talk about the IFRS 16 leases, there is an accounting for the lessor, the person who owns the asset. There is an accounting for the lessee, the person who leases out the asset. And then there is this sale and leaseback transaction, the transaction in which what you do is that you sell your asset and you lease it back. You sell your asset and you lease it back. So that is called sale and leaseback transaction. What is it termed as? Sale and leaseback transaction. So what we would be discussing is that we would be having an in-depth discussion, in-depth study of how the sale and leaseback transactions, how the lessee accounting, how the lessor accounting is covered up. So we would be having a detailed discussion about each one of them. If we move a bit forward and if we discuss further, so the next specific area is about the financial instrument. So for the financial instrument, there is this IS 32, there is this IFRS 7, and there is this IFRS 9. These three are the accounting standards that are applicable. So when I talk about the financial instruments, so with respect to the financial instruments, what is actually happening is that for the financial instruments, we talk about whether we invest in shares, whether we invest in loan notes, or what we call as bonds also, whether we buy any derivative contracts. What do you mean by derivative? Like any forward contract, any future contract, any option contract, etc., etc., they're all considered to be the derivative contracts. So what we would be doing is that we would be discussing at depth in detail the accounting for the financial instrument, that how do we account for the financial assets, how do we account for the financial liability, how do we account for the equity instruments, etc., etc. So we'll be covering this in detail. Next we have got is the employee benefits. Now let's talk about the employee benefits. The concept of the employee benefits is that there is an accounting standard. The name of the accounting standard is IAS 19 employee benefits. So when I talk about the IAS 19 employee benefit, the whole objective, the whole purpose of IAS 19 is that an employer can give different type of benefits to the employee. An employer can pay salaries, can pay wages, can give bonus, pension, gratuity, leave pay, etc., etc. There could be different types of benefits that the employer can give to the employee. So how to account for all those benefits? How would an employer account for all these benefits in his financial statement? All of this thing is going to be covered under IAS 19 employee benefits, and again one of the core areas of the SBR syllabus. Again one of the core areas of the SBR syllabus. Then there is this share-based payment transaction, which is IFRS 2. Now let's talk about the share-based payment transaction, which is about the IFRS 2. So what's IFRS 2 all about? What is happening with respect to IFRS 2? Let's have a bit of a discussion about the IFRS 2. So when I talk about the IFRS 2 share-based payment transaction, the IFRS 2 share-based payment transaction, as the name suggests, every single transaction in which a company would issue its shares. Every single transaction in which the company would issue its shares, or it will actually use its shares as a form of consideration, that's going to be considered as share-based payment transaction. Now what exactly do you mean by this share-based payment transaction? So like there are multiple transactions. One of them is called equity settled transaction, which, as the name suggests, a transaction in which an entity would give its own equity instruments to the counterparty. An entity would give its own equity instruments to the counterparty. That's equity settled share-based payment transaction. Then when we talk about another type of transaction, that's actually called cash settled share-based payment transaction. So what exactly do we mean by cash settled share-based payment transaction? When we talk about cash settled share-based payment transaction, so a transaction in which ultimately you will be paying cash, but that cash is linked to your shares. That cash is linked to your shares. So basically what we would be discussing is, we would be discussing how would you account for a cash settled share-based payment transaction in the financial statement. That's another thing. The next accounting standard is the income taxes, and the income taxes accounting standard. You might have basic knowledge of the income taxes accounting standard, but the good thing or the exciting thing about the income taxes accounting standard at the SBR level is that at the SBR level, what you as a student need to do is that you need to understand this thing, that for the income taxes, all the accounting standard, whether we have studied financial instrument, whether we have studied the financial instrument, whether we have studied share-based payment transaction, whether we have studied employee benefit, whether that be leases, whether that be revenue, and many other accounting standard. So whatever the taxation impact of those accounting standard is, we are going to be discussing that in depth, in detail. So that's about the income taxes. And lastly, there is this fair value measurement, which is another core area of the syllabus. What is it, fair value measurement? So see, what happens is that the accounting standards use the concept of fair value on several occasions. What do you mean by using the concept of fair value on several occasions? So like fair value of assets, fair value of liability, the circumstances, different circumstances when you have got multiple fair value available. So which specific approach are you going to adapt, etc., etc. All of this is something that we would be discussing about. All of this is something that we'll be talking about. So let's talk about this fair value measurement. The concept of the fair value measurement is that in a given scenario, if you've got multiple values, what is going to be considered as fair value, what is going to be the best estimation of the fair value, that is something that we would be discussing when we talk about the fair value measurement accounting standard. So there is a proper complete accounting standard on this. The name of the accounting standard is IFRS 13. The name of the accounting standard is IFRS 13. So IFRS 13 fair value measurement is what we are going to be talking about, is what we are going to be discussing about. So I talked about the core accounting standard, and this is what we have as a core accounting standards. The revenue, leases, financial instrument, employee benefits, share-based payment transaction, income taxes, fair value measurement. This is what we have. If we move a bit forward and we talk about other accounting standards, so you need to understand this thing, that basically um, you study a lot of accounting standard the FR level, which includes the IAS 16 property plant equipment. Similarly, IAS 36 the impairment of asset, IAS 23 the borrowing cost, IAS 38 intangible, IAS 40 investment property, IFRS 5 non-current asset held for sale and discontinued operation. So all of these accounting standards which you have studied at the FR level are also examinable at the SBR level. So what I would be doing is that I would be giving you access to the lectures for these accounting standards also. So just in case if you have forgotten the SBR, if you've forgotten the FR level accounting standard, it could become easy for you to go about. Then we have got other accounting issues. The other accounting issues include the IAS 20, which is about the government grant, IAS 24, which is about the related party. So similar IFRS 8, the operating segments. So the other accounting standards, they are also being covered up with respect to this other accounting issues. So they are again area but not a core area of the syllabus. They are again part and parcel of the syllabus, but they are not the core area of the syllabus. Okay. Next, what we have is we have got group accounts. Now, group accounts, which we also call consolidation. This is a major area of the syllabus, and question number 1, you've got approximately 15 marks of question number 1 on consolidation. You've got approximately 15 marks of question number 1 on consolidation. That's what you have. Now, when we talk about the consolidation of the group accounting, so what do we have? We need to understand that all of the aspects, all of the concepts that we have studied at the FR level, which include the concept of subsidiary, the goodwill, the associate, the intra-group transactions, etc., etc. Every single concept is examinable at this level also. I repeat, every single concept is examinable at this level also. But again, you would have forgotten it, and I know this. So I would actually be doing the consolidation from the start as if you know nothing about the consolidation. I'd be taking it from the very basics. That's what my approach is going to be with respect to the consolidation. So when we would be doing consolidation, this is the key approach that we would adopt, that we would do everything from the base. We would do everything from the start, from the scratch. That is something that we would do. Now, if I talk about it, so subsidiary, you know what it is, the entity which is subject to control. Associate, the entity upon which we exercise significant influence. So that is called the associate. The subsidiary is an entity which is controlled uh, by parent entity. Then the joint venture is an entity which is subject to joint control. So this is something that is new for you people, the joint control concept. The subsidiary is something you know from the FR level. The joint control, the joint venture is something that is new for you people. That's one thing. Now if I move a bit forward and if I discuss further, so there is this step acquisition. As the name suggests, it's acquiring a company in steps, in stages. So like maybe let's say you had 40% shareholding, you made it 60%, then you made it 75%, so on and so forth. That is called a step acquisition. What is it termed as? It is termed as a step acquisition. We talk about the concept of group disposals. When we talk about the group disposal, it's like disposing of a subsidiary. There could be different type of disposals. The disposals could be like this. You had 80% shareholding, you make it 0%. You had 80% shareholding, you dispose partial of it, you make it 60%. You had 80% subsidiary and you dispose it off and it becomes 30%, so on and so forth. So this is going to be considered as group disposals. What is it called? It is going to be termed as group disposals. Group cash flows, something new. You have not studied. The cash flows is something that you studied, but the group cash flows is, we would be talking about the cash flow statement from the perspective of the consolidation, from the perspective of the consolidated financial statement. That how the cash flows for the consolidated financial statements would be prepared, how the intra-group cash movements between the parent and the subsidiary would be removed, etc., etc. That is something we would discuss. And lastly, there is this foreign subsidiary, you know this thing. You may be based in UK and you would invest in UAE, you would invest in Saudi, you would invest in Japan, etc., etc. You could invest in multiple countries. When you would invest in multiple countries, so automatically what would happen is, by investing into the multiple countries, you would have this situation that you would have this situation that you would have to be dealing with multiple currencies, and how you would consolidate those multiple currencies, that is something that we would be discussing in here. So basically group accounts is one of the core areas of the syllabus again, and we would be covering it in depth in details. Then there is this area of interpretation of financial statements. So let me just guide you a bit. For the interpretation of financial statements, you have already covered up the interpretation from the perspective of financial reporting, or even a lot of students have studied at the performance management level. So you know that interpretation is basically, first of all, you calculate the performance and then you comment on it. So in order to calculate the performance, we know one thing which is called financial ratios. But at the SBR level, there is a concept called alternate performance measure. And what do we mean by alternate performance measure? So when we talk about the alternate performance measure, the concept of alternate performance measure is that this alternate performance measure would mean what? This alternate performance measure would mean that when I talk about the alternate performance measure, it could include not just financial ratios based on financial statements. So it could be financial measures, it could be non-financial measures. These could be the case, right? These could be the situations. So other financial measures, non-financial measures, etc., etc., etc. So what we would be discussing is, we would be discussing that how can you calculate the performance of the entity in a different manner other than using the financial ratios only, and additionally, how would you interpret those financial statements for the different stakeholders, because you know you have got different stakeholders. You've got different stakeholders. So how would you do it for the different stakeholders? That is also something that is going to be covered. So we'll be talking about this area also. Now, the rest is current issue, framework, ethics, which I've already discussed. So basically, this is about the syllabus of the SBR. Now, the next important thing is that how exactly would we be, uh, how would exactly would I be delivering this SBR course to you people? So our course is online blended. When we talk about the blended, the concept of blended is it's a mix of live plus recorded. Usually I do is that I take weekly live class. I usually take one weekly live class. There are going to be assignments that you will be submitting. We have got tutor assistants who are going to be responding back to you, giving you marks on your assignments. Obviously, there is a certain window for the submission of the assignment, so you would have to make sure that you comply with that window. And then what we would be having is that in the last month before the examination, we would be having live revision classes. And lastly, we would be having a mock examination also on which you would be getting feedbacks too. And usually I try that in the last week before the examination, I give ask anything session. Now what do you mean by ask anything session? There are those sessions where I invite students to ask anything, any question that they have. It's one of those things where I invite students to ask anything, any question that they have. They can go on and they can ask that question, and I would inshallah be responding back to that question. That's something that I do. If you wanna get enrolled for the course, you're most welcome to get in touch with our team on this WhatsApp number 92345 828 722. Plus, if you want to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me, but usually a difficult task to get in touch with me. I prioritize answering on the WhatsApp group, but again, I'm trying my best to answer every single student in the bestest and the bestest possible manner. So inshallah, hopefully would be able to answer your queries also. So that's it for today. In case if any one of you have got any questions, anything to ask, you're most welcome to ask. I'd be happy to answer. If any one of you has got any query, anything that you would like to ask, you're most welcome to ask that, please. Um, well, I would suggest that nowadays what is happening is that ACC has got ACC Study Hub also. So, okay, I'm sorry about it, Ayman Rizwan. I'll just respond back in the group also. Okay, see, what happens is that it's not necessary, even if you go through my lectures, and plus, in addition to this, if you go through the practice questions, that is more than enough, because practice questions is the key. Once you know the knowledge, obviously when you don't understand anything, you would probably prefer to go to book, but I would say that try doing maximum examination questions. That's the best thing to do. Use ACCA Study Hub. ACCA Study Hub is something good, something that is going to be beneficial for all of you. Okay, anyone else having any other queries, please? Anyone else having any other queries? Okay. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for attending the session. It was great to have you all here. Yeah, timetable I will just share. I'll share in the WhatsApp group the timetable of the classes, so don't worry about it. I'll share the timetable for the next 2 weeks and also the planner that you should be doing. So that's it from my side. You will be getting the planners, and you could just get it through the planners, so that you could just follow the planners so that it helps you prepare well for the examination. So thank you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending the session. See you inshallah very soon.